Good morning, everyone. Greetings from the Institution of Global Professionals IGP Bangladesh. Greetings from the Institution of Global Professionals IGP Bangladesh. Thank you all for joining us and staying with us till the end. Honorable knowledge speakers today, I am your host for the morning. My name is Al Choshak and I am from Bangladesh. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, I am proud to be associated with IGP as a global group. IGP is a social and ISO certified International Training Institute. In last 3 years, we already served 3 million knowledge seekers from 100 plus countries. IGP internationally recognized and globally accredited. We are connected to more than 250 plus professions and 4,500 plus organizations. Institute of Global Professionals (IGP) is the training faculty for skill development which was founded in 2020 and is generating competent candidates to meet demand in the global labor market by providing professionals qualifications. The Institute of Global Professionals is an educational institute that provides social work globally recognized and reputable. We serve students and community resource providing holistic social work and education. We believe that it's not effective to increase one skill just by accurate formal education. We provide effective training and consulting to generate proficient generation all over the world. We distribute our service locally, nationally, and internationally to students, job seekers, job holders, and also for learners. Though respective campus location and distance learning platform, we are an occupational and dependable institution. IGP is one of the famous online institutes from all over the world. Our vision is education is not a business product, it's a part of our human rights. Based on our vision, we are trying to reach all corners of the world for free webinars, seminars, courses, awards, quiz competition, mentoring, and counseling, etc. On the other side, we also trying to serve more than 100 premium service for free like create own portfolio website, visual builder, cover letter, motivation letter, and world knowledge platform for gathering general knowledge which can update all day. Kids learning games, website free courses, convert sites, and many, many more. We help to empower youth to learn to meet their expectations and dreams and become highly skilled people. We implement several training programs, webinars, and offline online courses for free youth and learners by professionals, trainers, speakers, and coaches. Our sessions are conducted by globally renowned professionals to develop all kinds of youth and to promote the education of their abilities and personality. To ensure excellent and in-depth instruction, we arranged with qualified trainers, speakers, and instructors. We extended free service to more than 3 million knowledge seekers in the last 3 years. We have affiliations with universities and organizations in 70 different countries. Virtual mouse signing with many colleges and organizations have have been accomplished. We are working to create a legendary generation of future scholars and citizens who will be accountable. We are constantly prepared to assist all knowledge seekers with valuable service. Spreading knowledge is crucial for the Institute of Global Professionals. We believe that knowledge is love, light, and vision. We are trying to understand the needs of today's generation and we serve them with good research and practiced method. We must have a genuine concern for the learners. We represent more diversity, growth, and innovation, and require to lead a session with professionalism, passion, and integrity. IG members are committed to offering effective, best quality service and continual improvement so that individual who seeks information can improve their skill and levels and values. Before we move to the next, let me remind you, don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable to us. Thank you. Before we move to the next, let me remind you, don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable to us. Thank you. Moving to the next. With your continuous support, we already completed 1,287 webinars successfully. Wow. Moving to the next. With your continuous support, we already completed 1,287 webinars successfully. Wow. At present, we are going to start our 1,288 program. Name is Restorative Justice and Process. And our today's speaker, ma'am, Dr. Carle, or ma'am is Dr. Carle Kaplan. Before I hand over the stage to ma'am, want to share a little bit about our speaker. She is a criminology department, Mountain Provide State Polytechnic College, and Bontoc Mountain Province, Philippines. Now, very important moment for me to invite our speaker to IGP with her presentation. Now, very important moment for me to invite our speaker to IGP with her presentation. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, thank you.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm good. I'm doing good.
Ma'am, on behalf of IGP Knowledge Seekers, want to share from you about you, ma'am.
Okay. Um, there. Can you see my slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So this time, can I start?
Yes, ma'am. Now stage is your, ma'am. Please start
Okay,
your
thank
presentation.
you.
Thank you.
So this time, I will be sharing on the restorative justice and process and its process there. It says here that restorative process is any process in which the victim and the offender, where appropriate, it can include any other individuals or community members affected by a crime to participate together actively in the resolution of matters arising from the crime and generally with the help of a facilitator. So, in the restorative justice process, there is an active involvement of both the victim and the offenders with the help of the concerned individuals and, of course, a mediator. Then, the restorative justice program is any program that uses restorative process and seeks to achieve restorative outcomes. So when we say restorative, it is from the root word restore, which is to bring back the or to repair or to return back the the harmonious relationship. So those are just some of the terms that we need to be familiar with before we proceed with the other discussions, so that we will understand what it is meant by restorative justice and the restorative justice program there. Restorative justice has become a global phenomenon in criminal justice systems, and resonating with it, and in some cases, drawing from indigenous conceptions of justice, and it offers both an alternative understanding of crime and new ways of responding to it. So basically, this has been very obvious, or this program is obvious in the indigenous communities from where the concept of restorative justice sprung from. And then we have here the restorative practices that would include the victim and offender. Of course, again, the mediation. There is an offender mediation and conferencing in circles. So these are examples of the restorative practices. And then restorative outcomes include apology, amendments to the victim, and amendments to the community. Because later on, it will be mentioned that restorative justice, the concept of that is that the community is also heard, not only the individual victim. Anyhow, it says here the outcome includes an apology. So the offender must have to apologize to the victim, and of course to the whole community there. And then the third one is that restorative interventions are being used by police, prosecutors, judges, prison officials, and parole and probation authorities. So it's not only actually for indigenous communities nowadays. However, it's also being practiced by the legal system, the criminal justice system, most especially the key authorities in each of the pillar there. And then moving on, we have here the restorative interventions have developed somewhat differently from region, but in many cases, countries have found it useful to adopt appropriate legislations, and human rights and other objections of critics of restorative have been raised. So the restorative practices or the interventions would vary from one country to another, and of course because that includes the norms that are being followed in each of the culture. That's why, however, the concept is the same, which is to engage the offender in the process. Okay, and then we have here a question: what is restorative justice? So it is actually an approach that focuses on the needs of the victims and offender, as well as the involved community, instead of satisfying the abstract legal principles or punishing the offender. And then in here, the victims take an active role in the process, while offenders are encouraged to take responsibility for their actions, and that is to repair the harm they've done by apologizing, returning stolen money or items, and or performing community service. Then it is also based on a theory of justice that considers crime and wrongdoings to be an offense against the individual or community rather than the state there. And then so in here, in the restorative justice, the offender will also apologize to the family members and the community members that who were offended by the offense, or who got hurt by what just happened there. And then it is also a process where all stakeholders affected by an injustice have an opportunity to discuss how they have been affected by the injustice, and to decide that should be what should be done to repair the harm. That is according to John Braithwaite in 2004. So in here, in the restorative justice, there is the participation of the community members to plan on how they're going to help the offender to bring back from the offense, and then of course to be rehabilitated there. And then it is also a theory of justice that emphasizes repairing the harm caused or revealed by criminal behavior. So it is restorative justice is best accomplished through cooperative process that involves all stakeholders such as community members, law enforcers, and all other groups concerned with the case or offense. And then this restorative justice also refers to a principle which requires a process of resolving conflicts with the maximum involvement of the victim, the offender, the offended community, and the reassurance to the offender that he or she can be reintegrated into the society. So that is that's one. And then with the with crime, restorative justice is about the idea that because crime hurts, justice should heal, and it follows that conversations with those who have been hurt and with those who have inflicted the harm must be central to the process. So they have to process how the victim got offended, or the community got injured because of the crime, for example, that was committed. Okay, and then we have here three restorative justice objectives. First is that to restore community order and peace and repair damaged relationships. And this is achieved by means of formal or informal agreement between the victim and the offender, including the community members ayun, involved. For example, the victim agreed for an amicable settlement with offender in the case of theft. Example, and the offender may return the stolen item or the worth of it and agree not to commit the same mistake. So in this process, there is forgiveness by the victim and the family members or other people concerned. So the offender can still mingle with them. So in my community, this is often observed in many cases, such as vehicular accidents, where victims get injured. Through the amicable settlement, which is a form of restorative justice, the victim will not press charges against the driver or offender, but may ask the driver to pay for the medical expenses. And after that, the family members of both parties may advise the victim and the offender to take the incident as the beginning of a good relationship, and that we call it in a key or in Agkian, and which means brotherhood. So it's a start of a good relationship that is a brotherhood wherein the victim and the offender will continue to protect each other's back. Okay, so for the second objective, the criminal behavior as unacceptable and reaffirm community values. So this objective emphasizes that criminal acts or offenses are not supposed to be tolerated, and it insinuates that the norms are supposed to be greater than the abnormal behavior. There. The third is support victims. The third objective is to support victims, give them a voice, enable their participation, and address their needs. So, through restorative justice, victims are represented and supported because the community members are involved. Elders in indigenous communities, for example, can speak for the victim and see to it that the needs of the victim is provided, such as a temporary dwelling there. And uh, and the other three objectives are the following. For the fourth is encourage all concerned parties to take responsibility, particularly the offender. So the restorative justice makes sure that the offender acknowledges his guilt and become accountable for the damage caused. So it will also investigate the participation of the victim. For example, was there a provocation by the victim that annoyed the offender? If there is, then the victim will also be advised and make him realize his mistake, and of course, so that he or she will not do it again. The fifth objective is identify restorative and to have a forward looking outcome. I mentioned earlier about the inagkian, which means that the victim and the offender will become brothers or sisters after the settlement of the case. This is an example of a forward looking outcome that is desired by the restorative justice there. And the last objective is prevent recidivism by encouraging change in individual offenders and facilitating their integration into the community. The specific deterrence is also applied in this restorative justice process because the offender is encouraged to change for the better. For example, in case of domestic violence, the offender is constantly reminded to become responsible instead of drinking liquor. Anyone in the community who is concerned can encourage the offender to stay in the folds of the law. So those are the objectives. And then we also have here, some of you might be familiar with the retributive, and you might be confused between the difference of retributive and restorative. Okay, so there are differences between retributive and restorative justice. Anyway, many justice systems are retributive because the goal is only to punish the offender there. However, we have here the differences. For retributive, the crime is a violation of the law. However, in restorative justice, crime is a violation of people and relationships. So that's it. It's not just the law that's being violated. However, the relationship is also hurt, and of course, including the feelings of other people. And then for the second difference is that in retributive, justice is a contest between the offender and the state. However, in restorative justice, it involves the offender and the victim and the community there. And then the last is that justice determines blame and administers pain. So it's either the criminal is found guilty, or the offender is found guilty or not guilty. And if found guilty, then he or she would be punished or should be punished. However, in restorative justice, it seeks to give solution and promotes repair, reconciliation, and reassurance between the offender and the victim, and of course, the community members who are involved there. Then, let us now look into the foundational principles of restorative justice, which are the following. First is that crime causes harm, but justice should focus on repairing the harm. So, okay, there is someone who, for example, committed robbery, and of course, he should be punished, and as well, the that should be stopped because the people would not want any other incident or any other similar incidents that would be repeated there. And then second is the people most affected by the crime should be able to participate in its solution. So if you are affected, then you have to participate in order for that mistake to be corrected there, and of course, so that other people will not commit the same mistake. The third is that the responsibility of the government is to maintain order, and the community is to build, and that the community is to build peace. Okay, so here comes the government implementing the rules and regulations. However, within the community members must have to make sure that peace is maintained, of course, through following those the the orders that is being maintained by the government there. And the following are the characteristics of restorative justice. The victims take an active role in the process. So if we recall, it's always it's always mentioned that in the criminal justice system, the victim is forgotten. However, in restorative justice, the active participation of the victim is encouraged, or it is supposed to be that way. Okay. Second is that offenders are encouraged to take responsibility for their actions. So if they know that they are guilty, then they have to initiate a movement that would somehow cure, or that would somehow seek the forgiveness of the victim and the offender. And then the third is that it involves both victims and offenders and focuses on their personal needs. Ayun, in terms of personal needs, in terms of moving on in life, and become better there. And then we have here the features of restorative justice program, that it is a flexible response to the circumstances of the crime and the offender and the victim, and one that allows each case to be considered individual. So it might be individual, however, it is that the community is involved. And then the second feature is a response to crime that respects the dignity and equality of each person, and it builds understanding and promotes social harmony through the healing of victims, offenders, and communities. Usually in the legal system, the offender is being separated from the community. In as a feature of restorative justice program, the offender may still mingle with the community members in the society, provided that he should be reformed there. And of course that would and that through there will be healing, and then everyone will be good again. And of course the then relationship with one another should be brought back after the settling of the case or the offense. Okay. And then another feature is that a viable alternative in many cases to the formal criminal justice system and its stigmatizing effects on offenders. So usually, if a person is formerly incarcerated, then there would be labels, stigma there. And then sometimes the community members would not want to embrace that person again. However, in restorative justice, the offender is given another opportunity to live in the community. And next is it is an approach that can be used in conjunction with traditional criminal justice processes and sanctions. So again, the concept of restorative justice is borrowed from indigenous practices, and then it can be a link between traditional justice and the legal system. And that's why there are lots of restorative justice programs that are institutionalized already, and then it became formal. And lastly, it is an approach that incorporates problem solving and addressing the underlying causes of conflict. So, in restorative justice, the offender is not only punished, however, the root causes is addressed so that no other similar offense will be repeated by anyone in the community. Okay, so this time we have here a question on what are the outcomes or interventions that can be agreed upon during the restorative justice process. So we've been talking about outcomes a while back, and here are a few. First is restitution. So it is a process upon which the offender accepts accountability for the financial and or non-financial losses that he or she may have caused to the victim. Restitution is a core victim's right, which is very crucial in assisting the redirection of the victim's life. So that's it. Of course, for example, in civil cases, if the if there is a moral damage, then that should be there should be a restitution there. That is to give justice to the victim. Further, okay. The second is community work service. Whether imposed as a condition of offender's conditional liberty or integral part of his treatment plan, this should be purposely motivated to make the offender realize that he or she incurred an obligation to make things right there. So most of the restorative justice programs are considering community work service as an outcomes. That is, of course, to uh, and that can be aligned with the principle of exemplarity, so that others will reflect from it, and then of course they will not repeat the same mistake or the offense. Okay, the third here is counseling. Whether individual, group, or family, counseling will enhance clients' interpersonal relationship, and it will help him or her become more aware of his or her shortcomings or weaknesses. And this will also help him or her overcome painful experiences that drove him or her to commit a crime or the offense. There, of course, in counseling, um, the offender needs to reflect on the cause, and then whatever the problem that for example, if the person was provoked, then he should be counseled that next time if someone is provoking that person, they should keep their cool, and then and not to be overactive with what they do. Okay, here are other outcomes, such as, of course, attendance to trainings, seminars, and lectures. If, for example, in a case of vehicular accident, the offender or the driver can undergo seminars regarding a topic to avoid road rage, for example. And then the participation in education, vocation, or life skills program. So, for example, if the offender is unemployed, then he can participate in skills programs, such as here in the Philippines we have the TESDA that offers that. Okay, so that can be a part of the outcomes of the restorative justice, so that the offender will have a source of income. Okay, there is also group therapy session. So this is an intervention which provides recovering drug dependents or those with serious behavioral problems an opportunity to discuss their problems. So this is the group therapy session is very active, or this is often observed in the western part of course, the world, in America. However, it is not obviously practiced in some other countries, like for example, here in the Philippines there are just a few group therapy sessions, and this is one thing that needs to be promoted, of course, as a form of as an outcome of restorative justice, so that the participants there can learn from how other members recovered from drug addiction, for example. Okay. Another is spiritual development session or faith-based sessions. So, counselings or pieces of advice can come from preachers, the priests, and other spiritual leaders, and of course, that is to strengthen the spiritual aspect of a person. Okay, if there is a need. And then another is submission to the psychological or psychiatric assessment. So if needed, again, the offender or the victim can be can be subjected to psychological or psychiatric assessment. And of course, the aim of that is to further help them improve their behavior or some stress management, for example. Um, Another is submission to drug test or drug dependency examination. So, if, for example, the victim was found to be a drug addict or someone who is using drugs, then he can be tested so that even the victim will be rehabilitated. And then, of course, to recover from addiction or dependency. Okay. Another is the attendance to skills trainings livelihood programs there. And then marital enhancement programs, for example, marital counseling. The spouses will be counseled by the social workers in the locality or the elders in the locality. And then the we also have here the written or an oral apology, and of course that is expected from the offender, that after hurting someone, the offender should apologize and ask for forgiveness from the victim or from the groups of people that he or she offended. We also have here number 13 is the submission to family therapy sessions. And this session aims to develop healthy personal relationship within the family and to establish open positive communication between family members and significant others. Family members should be oriented in their individual responsibilities and roles there. So, for example, the roles of the children, how they can help in the household chores, so that the parents will not be so much stressed in working. Okay, so the last here is confinement in drug treatment rehabilitation center, including aftercare. So after the drug test comes, the result of that comes out positive, then either the offender or the victim should be rehabilitated in a formal institution or drug treatment rehabilitation center there. And then, of course, we will also be discussing on the restorative justice programs and their processes. A restorative, the first here is the victim offender mediation or the VOM. It is a process that provides interested victims an opportunity to meet their offender in a safe and structured setting and to engage in a mediation discussion of the crime. Anyhow, this is also known as the Victim Offender Reconciliation Program that was established in Canada in the 1970s. There. Um, and then we also have under this is that in essence, VOMs include a meeting between the victim and offender facilitated by a trained mediator. So this meeting concludes that with an attempt to reach agreements on steps that the offender will take to repair the harm suffered by the victim and in other ways to make things right there. So in here, the the victim, with the assistance of a trained mediator, the victim is able to tell the offender about the crime's physical, emotional, and financial impact. That is to confront that offender. And then, second is to receive answers to lingering questions about the crime and the offense by the offender there. And lastly, by be directly involved in developing a restitution program for the offender to pay back his or her financial debt. So actually, the victim can also seek the help of the offender in little ways, such as, for example, mowing the lawn or doing helping in the field works there, or he can also, the victim can recommend that the offender will work for someone, so that little by little the uh, the the offender can pay back the victim. Okay, and then we have here three basic requirements that must be met before the victim offender mediation can be used. The first is that the offender must accept or not deny responsibility for the crime. Of course, this is important because if the offender will deny or will not accept the guilt, he will not participate in the VOM. And second is that both the victim and the offender must be willing to participate, of course. So even if the offender is willing to participate, if the victim is not, then there will be no VOM. And then lastly, both the victim and the offender must consider it safe to be involved in the process. So there should no be biases. No, there should the mediator, for example, should not point fingers or blame one party or one side, either the victim or the nor sorry, the the mediator should not blame the victim or um, give a positive side to the offender. Okay. Uh, the second program is the family group conferencing. This was observed in New Zealand in 1989, and it has a wider circle of participants than VOM, adding people connected to the primary parties such as family, friends, and professionals. So, the family group conferencing is often the most appropriate system for juvenile cases due to the important role of the family in a juvenile offender's life. It involves bringing together the family and friends of both the victim and offender, and sometimes also other members of the community to participate in a professionally facilitated process to identify desirable outcomes for the parties, address the consequences of the crime, and explore appropriate ways to prevent offending behavior from recurring. So that's it. The family members should are playing beneficially, and of course are playing crucial roles in this process. And we also have the circle sentencing. This is usually observed in North America, and it is generally only available to those offenders who plead guilty. And then, anyway, it is a method where all of the participants, including the judge, defense counsel, prosecutor, police officer, the victim, and the offender, and their respective families and other residents, sit facing one another in a circle. And then, of course, they would discuss on the kinds of punishment or the community service that needs to be implemented, of course, or undertaken by the offender. So this is the sentencing circle. Um, Further, it is perhaps the best example of participatory justice, since the members of the community can become directly involved in responding to incidents of crime and social order or disorder. I'm sorry. So discussions among these in the circle are designed to reach a consensus about the best way to resolve the conflict and dispose the case, taking into account the need to protect the community, the needs of the victims, and rehabilitation and punishment of the offender. So, in this circle sentencing, the there is a legal figure who would participate, of course. And then the fourth is peacemaking circles. And this program have often provided the basis for the subsequent development of programs for adult offenders. It is similar with the circle conferencing. However, it is more focused on restoring peace between the victim, the offender, and with the community as a whole. So again, It revolves on the concept of the restorative justice, wherein the healing of the community after the damage caused by an incident or a crime is the focus or is the priority. And we have the reparative probation and community board and panel. This is based on the probation programs of the parole and probation officer, wherein constant monitoring of the offender is done in order to ensure his or her transformation. And it involves the participation of the community to work with legal and police officers in coming up with an appropriate penalty to be applied for such offense committed. Reparative provision there and community boards. So meaning, in here, the community members can also suggest for a punishment or a community work that can be applied or can be observed or followed by the offender there. And those are the examples, of course. I mean, those are the programs under restorative justice. And then this time, okay, this time, uh, after knowing the restorative justice programs, then may I take this opportunity to advocate on it because this is a good practice that needs to be adapted. So if you have traditional practices which applies the concept of restorative justice, then we encourage that you conduct a research about it and have it uh, recommended to be institutionalized or to be formalized there. So that ends my topic. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, ma'am, so much for your rich content presentation, which can impact our knowledge seekers surely. After your presentation, I hope our knowledge seekers can learn something new, which was only our intention. Learn and grow IGP. Learn and grow together IGP knowledge seekers. Once again, thank you so much, dear ma'am, for your presentation. Now, ma'am, it's time for the question answer part, which is one more valuable part of our regular webinar. On our webinar, please stay with us. After a short video, we will come back in our session part 2, which was a question answer part. Dear IGT knowledge seeker, ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After question answer, we have progress certification and online quiz competition. Now, after a short video, we'll come back. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Let's welcome ma'am.
Yes.
Welcome back, ma'am. Ma'am, a question. Ma'am, our first question is Daisy. What is expected of the people who have harmed?
Who have been harmed. Okay, so through the restorative justice, the victim or the person who was harmed will of course get will deserve a satisfaction. Of course, his or her answers about why that particular crime happened to him or her will be answered. So there will be a closure. And one more, it would somehow help the victim move on by removing a um, something or a burden from the shoulder, that is to of course forgive the offender. And then of course there is this question about it's a question that I'm also asking my graduate students on: why do we consider why do we consider it as justice if the person is already in prison? Or for example, if the offender is not imprisoned, then there is no justice, or this justice is served. So my point of view is that if the justice is not only imprisoning someone or punishing the offender, however, justice is also achieved by the victim if the victim or the offended group of people would have a closure. And then of course if they will also move on in their life without so much thinking about what happened. So that's my answer, and I hope I was able to answer your question.
And thank you so much for your answer. Dear IGB knowledge seekers, please ask your question in the comment box. Our speaker is waiting for your comment, waiting for your question. Please ask your question in the comment box. Daisy Sinha, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
IGP knowledge seeker, please ask your question in the comment box. Our speaker is waiting for your question. Our second question from Evelyn. Good afternoon, ma'am. How about those who committed grave offense? Can it still be settled in the form of restorative justice? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. Yeah, as I mentioned a while back, the restorative justice program that exists in one community or society might be different from the others, because the restorative justice is influenced, or that program might have been established because of the influence of the culture. So in here in my place, here in Mountain Province, sometimes we agree to settle through restorative justice process some of the grave offenses, such, for example, rape there. So, rape is considered as a felony, and however, it can still be settled, as long as the offender agrees to, of course, agrees to join to participate, and most especially the victim. So in here, since it is a grave offense, the participation of the victim is solicited. However, if they do not desire to go through the restorative justice process, then it would be filed, or the case will be filed in court, and then that would be it's going to follow now the legal system of the criminal justice system. So that's it. Again, my answer for that is it can be as long as your program can the program or the restorative justice program in one locality is allowed or can settle those cases based on the, of course, perception of the general populace. That's it, Ma'am Evelyn. Thank you.
So thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your answer. Sorry. Please, IGP knowledge seekers, ask your question in the comment box, or speaker is waiting for your comment. Ma'am, I hope you covered full question, and I hope you covered full topic properly. That's why there is no more question.
Okay. So,
Thank you so much, Honorable Ma'am, for your time. We have learned a lot from you with the new topics. It will add some values to our day-to-day activity along with our academic and professional growth. Honorable Ma'am, hope to you see you again with a new topic and new date. Thank you, ma'am. Take care.
yeah. Can I say a
Honorable
word?
ma'am. Huh?
Can I say a few words? Just express my thanks. Okay, thank you. Thank you, IGP family, and thank you for all the participants. And of course, this is another opportunity for me to share what I know in relation of some of the researches that we are doing. Again, thank you so much, and have a good day.
Honorable ma'am, before we move to the next webinar certification process, if you want to leave this studio, IGP knowledge seekers, it's time for the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we will start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition as quiz and quiz certification process. IGP knowledge seekers, it's time for the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we will start our webinar certification, and after webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification process. Thank you. Please stay with us. To solve our technical problems, we cannot share our certificate code. We provide our certificate code in a short time. To solve our technical problems, we cannot share our certificate code. We provide our certificate code in a short time. Thank you. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, the most engaging part of this webinar, which is an online quiz competition, which is our regular webinar activity. Now, time for the online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition, probably few instructions carefully. First of all, you have to go www.slido.com. Then, then find the student's quiz and scan this QR code for direct join. And the code is global IGP and IGP. After a short video, we will start our quiz session. Okay. After a short video, we will come back for our quiz competition. Stay with us and enjoy quiz competition. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please join in Slido with code and the code is global IGP. Please join in Slido with code and the code is global IGP. Already 17 people joined with us for question answer. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please join in Slido with code and the code is global IGP. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please join in Slido with code and the code is global IGP. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, we will pick your name from quiz Slido. So join with your full name, which will be directly printed on quiz certificate. Please, IGP knowledge seekers, join in Slido with code and the code is global IGP. Already 20 people are joined us. Now time for the online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition properly, please follow my instruction carefully. First of all, www. You have to go www.slido.com and find today's quiz or scan this QR code for direct joining. And the quiz code is global IGP. And the quiz code is global IGP. Please mention your five friends for joint quiz session and can decide people are joining us. Let's start for let's start. Our first question is restorative justice aims to first option is ensure people spend a much time as possible in custody and second option is have criminal work with victim to fix what they have done. 50 answer. Have criminal work with victim to fix what they have done is the right answer and 50% people are right. Moving to the next question. Our second question is what is restorative justice? First option is punishment and second option is criminals making attempt. First option is punishment and second option is criminals making amends. Criminals making amends is the right answer and 85% people are right. Moving to the next question and our third one question is what is restorative justice? First option is designed to ensure public safety and second option is an approach to justice that seeks to repair harm. An approach to justice that seeks to repair harm is the right answer that 80% people are right.
কেউ তো কিছু বল না আমি বলে বলি এটি আপনি আসেন না যে এটি ঘটনাগুলো শুনলে আমার মাথায় এখন ভিতরে বলতেছি
First, our fourth long question is what does restorative justice work with? First option is victims, and second option is yellow and blue.
ওনার সাথে মিটিং এ ছিল একটু টাকায় টাকাইছে আর একদম চলে এসেছি কিন্তু সবার কি লাগছে এরপর আমি আমার টাকা দিয়েছি
Yellow and blue is the right answer, and 11% people are right. Moving to the next question, and our fifth question is restorative justice reviews former institutional process. Usually, for first option is their failure to use the harm to build the employees and community. Second option is lack to take on elastic values. First option is the right answer, and 68% people are right. Moving to the next question, and our sixth one question is what are the three ABC of restorative justice? First option is against bad conflict, and second option is accountability, buildings, complementance, and community safety. It's the right answer. Second option is the right answer, and 89% people are right. Moving to the next question, and our seventh one question is what is the restorative justice council? First option is independent body who role is a establish clear standards and second option is laying body who roles is to establish clear standards. First option is the right answer and 54% people are right. Our eighth known question is 85% people were satisfied by restorative justice. First option is true and second option is false. Is it true or false, dear? Is it true or false? IGP Second, please answer your question. Seventy-six percent people are right. Moving to the next question, our ninth question is restorative justice just for people of color? First option is yes, and second option is no. Yes or no? What's the right answer? No is the right answer, and 69% people are right. Moving to the next question, and our final question in this session is sociological sociological theory support the restorative justice policy. First option is fun, which is the right answer. Please answer your question. Left realistic is the right answer, and 14% people are right. Congratulations, top 10. Congratulations to our webinar online quiz competition winners top 10. Congratulations. I guess slide will take a few minutes for finalizing the result. And after that, we will issue our online quiz competition certificate on our official Facebook page and groups. Facebook page and groups name is Institute of Global Professionals. Congratulations to our webinar online quiz competition winners top 10. Congratulations again. Slide will take a few minutes for finalizing the result. And after that, we will issue our online quiz competition certificate on our official Facebook page and groups. Institute of Global Professionals. At the end moment of our session, we can say properly fits your skills. Never stop learning because life never stop teaching us. Be happy and stay safe. See you again and again. We want to your participation in every program. If you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not a people or things. Albert Einstein. Before I say or hit the end live button, I guess wants to thank to all IHP knowledge seekers of your active participation as well as see you in the next session. Thank you. Thank you so much IHP knowledge seeker for staying with us. Lot of minute. Thank you. Thank you again.